No, you're supposed to put the shell on your chest and then you crack it open. Now, I know there's penguins on the screen. Oh, hi, friends. Welcome to the Aquarium Online Academy. We're going to talk about not those silly animals behind us, but otters. Now, otters and penguins do have some similarities. They are cute. They don't really have a whole lot of fat inside their body to keep them warm. So how do animals in the ocean that are warm-blooded, without a lot of fat like a whale, stay warm? Well, we're going to explore a little bit more about that. So let's get into all about our Otter Adventures. But guess what? You get to participate with us today. If you're watching and you need some adult help, have them help text us questions down here, 562-286-1838. And you can text us questions live on the air. We'll answer them for you. You can even provide your name if you so choose, and we'll call out who's asking us questions. If you're not watching live Monday morning, 9 a.m., you can still ask us questions. Email us at live@lbaop.org. And our educators will get back to you with more answers to your lovely scientific questions. Well, let's figure out why otters are so cool. Because they are pretty cute, but they're a very special kind of marine mammal. All other kinds of marine mammals are very different from them. So let's take a look. Let's make a couple observations together. We know that it's a mammal. What kind of characteristics do we notice on this sea otter? Kaya, my friend who's controlling the picture, says they're cute. I personally don't think that all works for always all mammals, because some mammals do have some interesting adaptations that make them very different from each other. But what does make them specific to being a mammal? Lovely fur. Yeah, they've got some of that. Other things you might notice, they have eyes, they have ears, they have lovely teeth. But teeth aren't really something unique to certain animals. So why else are they a mammal? Oh, that works. They breathe air. I was going to take a big breath to talk to you, but they breathe air. Now, we said that they're warm-blooded, or we were mentioning something about that. They control their body temperature from the inside, just like we do. If it's cold, I put on a jacket. If it's too hot, I take short sleeves out and wear shorts, maybe some sandals. We have to do things to our environment around us so that our body does not get too warm or too cold. So we try to keep our body temperature the same all the time. If it changes, that's when we might be unhealthy. So mammals like us, otters, whales, dolphins, seals, sea lions, dogs, cats, all those mammals, we keep our body temperature the same all the time. Well, there's other things that make mammals unique, like our diet. When we're babies, we're not eating normal food like the adults. Now these otters are eating pieces of clam. It's easier to see in the picture. We'll show you the video in a sec. When the otters are adults, they have to eat things like clam and shrimp. And I was holding a sea urchin. Well, not a real one. It was a real one. It's a sea urchin shell. It's not a live urchin anymore. So otters are eating lots of things that you would find off the sea floor. So let's take a look at what our otters are doing while they eat our pieces of clam here at the Aquarium of the Pacific. Now, out in the ocean, they'd have to scavenge and hunt off the seafloor. But here, they are hand-fed by our training and caretaker staff. And that's so that, one, we can monitor how much they eat. And we want to make sure that they're eating everything they're supposed to, just like our parents do for when we're eating stuff. We also have to make sure that they can do all the things they're supposed to do. Not only are they eating everything they need to, but when we do these training activities and behaviors, we have them move around, swim around, pick stuff off the floor of the exhibit. They go swimming and diving, grab things for us. We're testing their abilities to make sure that they're physically fit, there's no injuries, there's no problems that we have to worry about while they're in their exhibit. So it's not just about making sure they eat everything, but it's about making sure that their bodies are healthy too. We can do some other things that help keep their minds active. That's part of the games and other training activities that we provide for them. So when otters are out in their natural habitat, they have a pretty varied diet. Now, the cool thing about an otter is that they learn what to hunt from their moms. Just like our parents teach us things, sea otter moms teach the babies how to hunt. So only some otters know how to hunt crabs. Only some otters know how to hunt clams. But most otters that we see can hunt for their very favorite food, Valerie, sea urchins. That's why I had that sea urchin shell earlier. It's pretty widespread that most sea otters know how to hunt an urchin. Let's take a look at a picture of an urchin real quick, because it seems like they would be a challenge. A crab is just crawling around on the ground. It's pretty easy to grab them, pick them up, and take them to the surface, crack them open. But urchins are a little different. So we'll take a look at them. Kai's going to find a picture for you. Now, while they're doing that, I'm going to answer Ryan's question too. Ryan asked, do they eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner? They're more like breakfast 1, 2, 3, lunch 2, 3, 4, dinner 4, 5, 6. They eat a lot of stuff during the day. You know why? Because they have a huge diet. I wish I had a diet capacity like an otter. So if you're an otter and you're eating a lot of urchins per day, urchins don't weigh a whole lot. Let's say you're a 60-pound otter, which is pretty average for our southern sea otters, like the ones at the Aquarium in the Pacific, the ones you find in Monterey Bay and other parts of Southern California. So you're about 60 pounds. You have to eat a quarter or more of your body weight every day. So for Valerie and Ryan's questions, their favorite food is urchins. They don't eat only urchins, but they're going to eat a lot, because Ryan, they're going to need to eat 15 pounds of food per day. Urchins, if they were this big, they might be able to get that 15 pounds in just a couple urchins. But urchins are not much bigger than this. It's going to take a lot of urchins, crabs, clams, sometimes sea stars. We've even seen them grab a few octopus before. So they do eat a lot of things off the sea floor, but they're smaller objects that are a little bit tougher to grab and get a lot of at once. So when they come up to the surface, they lay on their back, crack things open on their chest, just like you saw the otter with the crab. And that's how they eat their food. So they're going to have to do this many times a day. Now, the reason they're doing this is they burn a lot of calories. It's not just because they eat a lot. Think of, like the Olympics just happened. Think of all those Olympic athletes. They exercise and do a lot of stuff every day, so they have a very big diet. They eat more than the average person. Well, otters eat more than a lot of things, because their metabolism, how many calories they burn every day, is very high. Remember we said that they're warm-blooded, just like us? So their fur is super special. Let me show you them grooming their fur. Their fur is very special. It's very, very thick. So if you imagine, if you could count every otter hair, there's up to 1 million hairs in a square inch of space. That's a lot of hair. That's as many as 7 to 10 people. We shaved our heads and we scrunched it all down to 1 square inch. And that's all over the otter. They have about up to 1 million hairs per square inch everywhere. Now that fur traps air inside the fur. You ever see them swimming around, you see bubbles trailing off of them? It's the air coming out of their fur. That air is a protective insulation layer. Just like my jacket would have an air layer inside that my body warmed up, and it keeps me warm. Their fur is doing that too. But they're in cold water. So here in Southern California, our waters range from about 55 to 65 degrees most of the time during the year. But farther north, it gets even colder. There's habitats where otters are in the water that's about 45 to 50 degrees. They're much farther north, but they can be in some very cold water. Now, mammal bodies don't survive very well in very cold water without an insulation layer. But you combine that insulating fur with their body heat that they burn off lots of calories and it's released as body heat, that's going to keep them warm. So they need to eat partially to keep their bodies warm. Great start off to our questions for today. Now, Elijah's asking, do they sleep and how long? Is it like 8 hours? Is it like us? They do sleep. And it's very cute. Have you ever heard that otters will kind of wrap themselves up in seaweed, or they'll like hold arms with another otter so they don't drift apart? That's been observed by otters, but they might swim into near shore water that they're just kind of laying in the water. They don't have to be by the kelp beds in order to sleep, but they do sleep. Now, since they hunt using mostly eyesight and some hearing, At night, there's not going to be any possibility of eyesight to hunt their food. They're not diving hundreds of feet down like a whale would. They're only diving maybe 50 to 100 feet down. And they only have a few minutes to dive while they hold their breath to come back up and eat their food. So they're probably going to be eating more often during the day, sleeping at night, or like a combination. Here at the Aquarium of the Pacific, it's kind of like my cat at home. They sleep a lot during the day, sometimes at night, but they're also very rambunctious at night too. So they do sleep, but not like we do, where we're sleeping all the whole night through, and then we're up in the morning. So they do sleep a lot, but not exactly like humans do. Good question, Elijah. Valerie's also asking, do the other otters ever leave the ocean? Kind of. Otters don't really need to get up on land a whole lot. So most of the time when you watch an otter in their natural habitat, they're doing this. They're out in the water. They're swimming. They can get up on land, but they're not as agile on land. They can move around, but they're not the best at running around on land. Way better swimmers. So if you look at their bodies, they have those fun little front paws, and then they have, you watch this one again, when it lays down, there's a flipper in the back. Their back feet look more like a flipper. So these are a fun model otter. So their front paws, kind of like if you had your hands in mittens, but you put your thumbs in the middle part instead of the thumb hole. That's kind of like their paws. They don't have a true opposable thumb, but they do have their paws kind of like this. Their flippers, you can see one up here, right there, helps to swim. So they can kick their back feet to swim around, use their front paws to help grab stuff. So when they get out of the water, they have to put a lot of weight on their back feet and their front feet to move around. But their bodies are very long for where their feet are and how long their arms and legs are. So their bodies aren't the best on land, but they do just fine. You might see them crawl out on land, hang out, sleep, do some other things. But since most of their day is going to be spent in the water, a lot of otters may actually never get out of the water, and it just depends on where they live. Now here's one of our otters using a toy. Much in the same way you watch them crack food on their chest, which I find so much fun to watch them as they play. Sometimes we actually hide food in their toys. So that could also be a behavior they learned, to smack their toys against the window to get the food to roll out. One of my favorite times to watch when they're doing their enrichment, which is purposeful play. We give them fun things to do, challenges to do. We'll take these big plastic clear tubes and we'll put a bunch of shrimp in it and we'll freeze it. And then we'll just throw the tubes in the water and they have to get the shrimp out. How do you get the shrimp out of a long tube like this? Well, one of them figured out that if you hold the tube and you smack it against the window, you're essentially using the force and the motion of smacking the end of the tube against the window to get all the shrimp to scoot towards the end of the tube, and they're just kind of picking it out. Kind of like in a chip can, if they got stuck and you had to kind of tap the rest to get out. They figured that out pretty quickly. So we give them challenges like that, different toys, different activities. Sometimes even like the Kong toy where we stuff food inside of it, throw it in the ocean, not the ocean, our ocean, the exhibit water, and they have to retrieve it and they can get the food out of it. Sometimes we just have them retrieve the toys and reward them after we give it to them. So here's one of our otters swimming around, having a whole lot of fun. Notice they're not really using their front paws much to swim. It's a lot of their full body motion. Kind of like if you could see a mermaid for real. That's kind of the motion you see. Their back flippers kick them around, but their front paws really just kind of send themselves in front rock. They're not helping steer as they move around. Very good. Now that's actually our exhibit. That's not like in a special area behind the scenes. That's them on exhibit. So if you ever do get a chance to visit the Aquarium of the Pacific down here in Long Beach, you can check out exactly that kind of thing. They may not follow you around, but they will be visible in the window. Ah. Kaya found some holiday music. So remember, enrichment is purposeful play. We give them treats and fun things to search and find or do anything with. Mostly what we do is we make this clam smoothie, and it's really thick, kind of like clay. We freeze it, and we make decorations out of it. Now, some of the otters, if you notice, this otter's not really chewing on each one of these. They're just kind of hiding them. What did that otter do with all of those frozen clam smoothie treats? You notice they're kind of grabbing them? It's like putting them in their jacket, but they don't have a jacket. Where's it going? It's going in their armpit. Do you hold your snacks in your armpit? I bet you don't. It's okay. Their armpits are bigger than ours. There's an extra length of skin so they can hold stuff in their armpits. Like if you ever try to put something in your armpit, use something with your hands and then pull it out, but it's not food, they will hide snacks in their armpit, especially here at the aquarium. So they'll grab all those fun frozen snacks, put them in their armpit, go jump in the water, and slowly chew on them. So there's a lot of things our otters do. Sometimes they just lay and sleep on the ice. We add ice to the exhibit. One, it gives them a little extra water to get in their diet. They do like chewing on ice. But it's also nice and cool if they do get out of the water. They can lay on the ice and take a nap where they're not going to get too warm. Now, Valerie asked a question about baby otters. Do baby otters stay with their family forever? Not quite. They don't really stay together like a family, like a pod of dolphins does, but they might stay in similar ranges. So once the baby has weaned from mom, is able to hunt on its own, it'll often move away to different areas. They might overlap in their range, but they really don't stay together as a distinct family unit like a pod of dolphins would. So that's a good question, Valerie, because if they're a marine mammal, do they do the same things that other marine mammals do? Not quite like whales and dolphins, a little bit more like seals and sea lions, where they might be in the same area, the same breeding grounds, where they all go back to the same part of the beaches in the same time of year, and other seals and sea lions have babies there. So they might do something like that, but not quite like a pod. So good question, Valerie. Do they stay with their families all the time? Not really. All right. Now, on this picture, there's one thing that I actually have some of our guests ask about I want to point out to you. So if you know right here, that's their ear. Really cool adaptation otters have. Have you ever been in the water? You get a little water in your ears and, you're like, oh, I got to get the water out. Well, how do otters prevent something like that from happening? It's not like they can put earplugs in and like, all right, ready to go get some lunch. They don't do that. How do they keep water from getting stuck in their ears then? It's actually really fun. They can essentially flip their ears down. They can move their ears. Can anybody wiggle their ears? Try wiggling your ears real quick. We can't move our ears very much, but they can actually fold their ear down. They don't even have to like work on it. It's just a muscle that folds the ear down, and it almost looks like when they're underwater, the ears go from up here to pointing down here. So people ask, like, what's under their chin? What is that? It's actually their ears. So that's one of the cool things I like to share about sea otters, is they can move their ears to help prevent water from getting stuck in their ears while they're hunting. Since the things they're hunting don't make a lot of noise, I don't know how many of you have heard a sea star make noise, but I have not. So they don't really make a lot of noise. Some food items might, like crabs could make noise. Crabs and shrimp do actually make a lot of noise in the ocean, but they don't really need their ears to hunt with. Now here you can see this otter's ears are not all the way pointed up. So they're kind of off to the side, a little bit pointing this way. So otter ears do move. That's one of the cool things about otters that you get to observe if you watch them while they're in the water. Now here's another cool thing. Look at those teeth! Hey. Otters have some pretty sizable teeth for the size of body they have. Now I have a model otter skull hiding. Here we go. Hiding with all of my stuff. Lots of fun artifacts to show people. So this is a plastic model. This is not a real one. But here's just the top jaw of an otter. You want to take a closer look on my special camera? I figured you might. Let's head over to our document camera. All right. So here's my hand for reference. Here is a lower jaw. Remember, this is a plastic model. Let me change the lighting a little bit so it's easier to see. We're going to zoom in a little bit so we can take a look at some of these teeth. So that's their lower jaw. Do any of these teeth remind you of our teeth? Well, if we look at it from the side, kind of like this, maybe we recognize a few more shapes. Oops. Actually, that works just fine. So turn one light off. There we go. We can see a lot more detail now. They have molars in the back, just like we do. Use your tongue, remember, because we don't want to stick dirty fingers in our mouth. Use your tongue and touch your teeth. Look. Do you feel the shapes of your teeth? So the molars in the back are for chewing. Were you watching our otters munch and munch and munch on some food? They do that. They aren't like other animals that just grab and swallow their food. Like a sea lion can only grab and swallow, or like a seal. So let me show you a sea lion jaw for comparison. It's a whole lot bigger, but you can see their teeth are not flat for chewing. Their teeth are just sharp for grabbing. So sea lion teeth really only help them grab their food like a fork. But sea otters, they have to chew and chew and chew and chew on their food. They have these front pointy teeth. What are our pointy teeth in our mouth called? Does anybody remember? You're right. Those are our canine teeth. That's actually how we tell, excuse me, if an animal is a carnivore. Carnivores have canine teeth. Or they are animals that can digest meat. So not all carnivores, or not all animals with canine teeth only eat meat, but they can eat meat. So see, even our sea lion friend, let's let the camera readjust. Big, big canine teeth for our sea lion friend. That's pretty cool. Now, this is a kelp forest habitat. So we're talking about the otters hanging out in the kelp, finding food in the kelp. Other animals, like seals and sea lions, live in kelp forests too. Now, not every kelp forest has quite this many sea lions in one area at all times. But this is a really good view of what this habitat can look like. Lots of really tall kelp swaying around. And the kelp has to grow on these rocks. And there can be sand around the rocks, but there's a lot of rocky substrate or rocky stuff on the bottom right there. And that's where all the sea stars and urchins and crabs and little, basically, creepy crawlies hang out. And that's where the sea otters are hunting. Now, their cousins, the sea lions, they're distant cousins because they're mammals. That's really where all they're related as. These animals can dive deeper and longer than a sea otter. Sea otters really only dive about as well as we do. 3 to 5 minutes is the maximum most otters can do. If you're really good at holding your breath, you could probably hold your breath for 30 seconds to a minute, maybe more if you practice. So they're smaller animals. This is actually a pretty accurate size of how big a sea otter would be if you got to hold one. So they can only hold their breath a little bit. They have to come up to the surface to breathe. They have really sharp, pointy teeth to grab at their food and tear bites off so that they can start chewing on it. But then the cool thing, remember, they have these special paws where they can grab stuff, crack things open. They're very smart, and they essentially use tools. They will hide their favorite rock or shell in their armpits and use that to crack open these animal shells. Now, our otters here can be very mischievous. Usually they're very cute and hanging out the window. But there are plenty of stories of otters behind the scenes taking things apart they're not supposed to. That's okay. That happens. So they get a little bored and they start misbehaving, just like we would. It happens to me too. We get a little bored and we start misbehaving. So sea otters, when they misbehave, they basically find something to keep their minds active. So imagine if you had like a little Rubik's puzzle cube. And every time you got a little bored, you had to start messing with that. Well, otters have to mess with something. So they take stuff apart. Or, one of the other funny things is, they'll retrieve things from the exhibit our caretakers did not realize could come off. They'll sometimes come back with objects, and the caretakers are like, I didn't realize that part could come off the wall. So that happens. One of my favorite stories is we tried putting some replica kelp in their exhibit to make it look way cooler, more like a kelp forest habitat. But if you remember watching those videos, there's no kelp in there. They're really good at taking apart the kelp, taking it off, breaking the what look like leaves off. They're called blades. So if they don't have something fun to do, puzzles, games, things to work on, they start to work on other things in our exhibit. So we want to make sure we're doing a lot to make them happy, keep them excited and happy in their exhibit. So the otters are trained in like specific feeding training sessions multiple times a day. And that's to help keep that mental activity going. But it also means that we're monitoring them up to 4 times a day to make sure they're super duper healthy and ready for all these fun photo opportunities. So these are one of those tubes that we can hide food in. This isn't one of the clear ones, but oh, it looks like that pipe elbow has some shrimp in there. Bye-bye, Otter. It's just like, I found some food. I'm confiscating that. Bye-bye. And there it goes again. Some of our otters actually prefer to feed while they're in water. Some otters, they don't mind. They'll stay up on land. And then one of our otters actually likes to save all of their shrimp shells for the end. So we'll give them unpeeled shrimp tails, just the shrimp tails. They'll peel all the tails off, eat the food, but they save their pile of shrimp tails until the very end, and that's like their dessert. To me, that's not dessert, but for them it is. Other otters we've had would hide some of their food in their armpit for later. Ever done that where you hide a piece of food, just like, I just want a snack for later. I'm just going to put this in my pocket. And then randomly we'll see them on exhibit munching on something. Like, where did you get that piece of food? It's been quite a while since your last feeding time. They hide the food in their pockets, and that's how they get themselves a snack for later. So they're pretty smart. They're pretty fun to watch. And unfortunately, we don't have a live webcam, but there's lots of media that we have of our sea otters on our YouTube page. So you can check out more about our otters on our website and our YouTube page if you want some more cool videos and fun things to watch. All right. What other, do we have any other things we have not shown our audience, Kaya? All right, Kaya's hunting for something else fun that we have not shown you yet. We've shown you most of the otter videos that we have. Oh, here's some shrimp eating one. Maybe. Keep looking. It's okay. Oh, yeah. Nom, 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 nom. So, see, they can peel their shrimp pretty easily. I don't know if you've ever tried peeling shrimp, but they can. There's that shrimp shell. And just takes it right off and nom, 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 nom. Now, this video is also really fun to show you because it is true that as otters age, they start to get more gray silvery hair on their head and shoulders. Just like humans, when we age, we start to get more gray and silvery hair on our head. So the older they are, the more of that they have. If they're really young, they're all brown. And that's how you can tell if it's kind of a young juvenile otter up until maybe 5 to 8 years old. And then about 5, they start getting more gray. And then we've had some of the oldest otters under human care. So out in the ocean, otters don't live too long. Maybe about 10 to 12, 15 years at most. 15 years would be a very old otter in the ocean. But at aquariums and zoos under human care, otters can live over 20 years, which is pretty amazing for their lifespan because most otters in the ocean are averaging about 10. So we can do quite a bit for their lifespan because we have all this amazing food for them. Staff that can take care of them all day, every day. It's like spa day every day. And there's no predators or health problems that they have to worry about like their cousins in the ocean would. So we can take care of them for much longer than they would be alive in the ocean. Now, that doesn't mean that we shouldn't worry about the ones in the ocean. Otters live in a coastal habitat, much like where I'm at, except we're in like the cave of the aquarium. We're in our green screen studio, but we're near the ocean, right on the coastline. The ocean's like 100 feet that way. So we have to take care of our coastal habitats to help our coastal animals survive. Now, doing something for one animal actually helps a lot of them. So if you love sea otters, you want to help protect their habitats, make sure their habitats stay clean. Make sure that we're not introducing things into the ocean that shouldn't be there floating alongside this kelp forest. You can also do things to help each other know more about otters. So take all the fun things we've learned today and share them with your friends and help them learn more about otters so that they too want to help out our coastal habitat and save our sea otters in the kelp forest. Well, thank you everyone for joining us and your awesome questions for Aquarium Online Academy today. We'll have another program at 10 o'clock, so stay tuned in. We'll also keep doing our programs on Wednesdays and Fridays, so tune in again on Wednesday and Friday for more Aquarium Online Academy. Have a good rest of your Monday.